Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Damn near silent, where my dreams lay cold and violent, locked between two rifts of flesh and blood divine, where I recall just what you said when we had hid beneath your bed, that the monster was above us this time. And I wanted to so badly keep you safe from our finale, from these mountains, from these voices in the deep. And I'm trying to stay conscious, but I can't quite seem to launch. Is this a dream, or am I trying to fall asleep? Well, I hope you stay a while, 'cause it's a long drive home from where we used to be. But if I stay down in the valley, it stays the same, but you don't stay with me. No, I can't tell you or repel you. This is fleeting, we're still leaving. When I war with coexistence, there's a tower in the distance, and its bell rings ceaselessly into my past. There's a soldier back from war, there lays the steeple, there's the family store, there's men whose words would shake like cannon blast. And the tower's looming closer, every second I'm alone. But I wonder if we ever came to pledge. On the boulevard I frequent, such a momentary lapse of reason takes me one step closer to the edge. Well, I hope you come and visit once or twice before we pack our things and leave. But if I stay down in the valley, it stays the same, but you don't stay with me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Hidden Tracks. I have Jake Russo from Death by Fireworks, another awesome band that I found while I was doom scrolling through Spotify and Bandcamp, and came across this, fell in love immediately. Literally, I think I reached out right after I put it on our threes for things that you have to check out. But I'm so glad to have you here today, Jake. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Shane. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Well, why don't you give us your quick origin story to putting Death by Fireworks together?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started playing music in middle school. Was in a couple bands in middle school and high school. Playing in and out of churches that me and my friends and our families were a part of.
What was the name of the very first band name you ever were a part of?
The very first band I was ever in was called The Arcade. And then we realized that was a little too close to it. Just having the word arcade in it made people instantly think of Arcade Fire. So we needed to try to change that. So we were called February 30th for like 2 days. And then we realized how terrible of a band name that is. So we changed it again to Goodbye Skyline. I mean, that was like our first band in high school, and that kind of eroded over time. But Death by Fireworks started just as like a project after that band broke up, because I was just kind of starting to, like, in that original band I was in high school. I didn't write any of the lyrics or any of the songs. I was just a guitar player, but I was slowly figuring out, like, aside from that band, how to write songs and how to, put music together by myself. And that's kind of what Death by Fireworks became.
All right. Well, I mean, you've been at it with Death by Fireworks for a while now. Have you felt, especially in today's landscape, any pressure to constantly always be putting out music for the world to hear? I know we're in the type of environment we're in musically is you kind of have to put something out every month. But I mean, your first release, if I am correct, was 2017, and we're now in 2024, and you've always kind of kept going. But do you feel any pressure in today's musical landscape to continue to always be up in front of people?
Absolutely. I think it's an unfortunate necessity of, the times that we're in, living in a society where things are moving a mile a minute. People are consuming things a mile a minute. And so in order to just kind of stay up to date with everything and, stay in people's feeds and, just trying to maintain relevancy, there's definitely a pressure to try to put out as much content as possible. But I try purposefully to, put everything I can into something before I release it. So that's my reasoning behind not putting stuff out, every month or every couple of months or something. Like the last piece of music I put out was a 3-song EP, and that was in 2022. And as of right now, I'm putting out a new single, hopefully in the next couple of months, and that's just a lone song by itself. I try to put as much effort and time into what I'm doing as possible, just so I know personally that, I think it's quality, and therefore that's my kind of my endorsement of whatever I release.
Well, and I can honestly say that I really appreciate that, because I'm a music lover. So when it comes to listening to music, I listen to everything. Like, I hear everything. I know what's going into a song when I hear it. I can hear the sincerity, I can hear the hard work, and I can hear the generosity. And by that, I mean people opening up and giving themselves to their artwork and letting themselves be vulnerable and giving it to the world to pick apart. Right. And it's a very generous thing to do with your artwork. And in today's landscape where where a lot of people are playing that singles game, like every month or every other
Yeah.
month, there's a new single out, and it's sometimes I feel the lack of sincerity. It's because they're doing it because they have to, instead
Hmm.
of creating that song and giving it their all and putting out, the quality instead of the quantity.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, no, I absolutely see where you're coming from on that. I think because I know, personally, like a handful of musicians who are consistent and they're putting out stuff really frequently. Every month they're putting a new single out, or they're putting out an EP, or um, they're always putting stuff out to, stay current, stay on people's minds. And I think, in today's, like you said, in today's landscape, it's kind of a necessary evil that musicians have to face, being content creators and also musicians at the same time. Um, I know personally, it's the attention that I put to, maybe just trying to stay relevant on whatever, on TikTok or Instagram. The time that I'm spending to try to stay relevant on there, or trying to think up stuff to post to try to grab attention. I know personally, I would just rather use that time to create. And so that's what I end up doing most of the time, is I stay really silent for a decent amount of time, and then when something comes down that I've finished, I can finally put all my attention to just promoting that, since the process of recording and working over it has come to an end.
Putting all that work into it as you do, and feeling confident enough to let something go and put it out into the world, when you
Mm.
were dissolving from a band that you, as you stated, you were just a guitarist and learning the right songs. When you put out, your first record, All the Lights of the New Year, how what was the difference, and how did you feel about, okay, I'm going to do this on my own? How do I know if it's going to work? Like, well, what was it when you released the first releases of your own stuff that you worked so hard for? I mean, what was the major difference you felt, and how did you feel after it first came out?
Mm. I think the main difference of putting out that first Death by Fireworks record, versus the music that I had put out previously with other bands before that, was you know obviously being like a front man, a songwriter, a vocalist for a project. You feel like you're at the head of the ship or whatever. And there was definitely a lot more. It felt like there was a lot more pressure, just because this was the first time I was leading something where it was primarily me. I was doing everything except for the drums on, I think, all of the Death by Fireworks music that I put out was recorded by, like, I played all those instruments. So it was just, I think it was a mixture of going to the right people for advice on what needed, um, extra time in the studio, or what songs deserve my attention versus others. Picking songs that I had written, showing them to people whose opinions I had trusted. Um, Honestly, actually, that's kind of, if I were to kind of boil it down, that was the big thing. It was getting advice from other musicians whose opinions I trusted, working with a really good engineer on that record who I had a good relationship with, and just being in a good environment too. Like a good studio environment and a good recording environment can take, like, music that I feel incredibly strong with and just amplify it 1,000 times more. So I think, yeah, having a great support system during that first record was crucial to that.
Was it hard for you at any point? And I don't know if this happened, but if you're sharing stuff with people, was there any, let's say, I don't want to say criticism, but critiques that you had a hard time swallowing, or were you very open to what any information or any help someone was going to give you?
Um, I That's a great question. I think I I really cherish certain people's advice, and those certain people being like musicians whose opinions I trust implicitly. There's a couple other musicians that are like writing partners of mine. Like I have another project that I'm in called Dream Without Sleep, and the bassist for that project, Alex, he's a writing partner of mine. And truthfully, nothing as far as Death by Fireworks goes, nothing gets released without his say so, or not his say so, but his without him telling me that I'm onto something. So I think I really treasure advice from certain people, and but then there's a certain point. There's a fine line between accepting that advice from people that I trust, or versus just hearing people's opinions of, just like reading
Yeah.
comments, reading comments versus like actually taking advice from people. And thankfully I've over the years of like working in music and meeting different musicians and working with other bands and engineers, people in studios, um, the I've tried to accept as much criticism as I can, or comments and criticism on my music, just so that I can make something that I know that I'm 100% proud of, and but also something that other people would enjoy listening to.
Well, I think it's important, and what you just said, and possibly knowing the difference between advice and an opinion,
Yeah,
because the old saying, and when I was in the military, it was everyone's gotten a opinion, and opinions are like
right.
assholes; they all stink. So, uh, it's just one of those things that it's hard to, a lot of times too, when you're creating something, it's hard to take someone's advice sometimes too, if it comes off as an opinion.
Sure.
So learning that distinction is quite a battle in and of itself. So to find that line, that which side it's going to fall on, is really hard to do. And I mean, if you can do that and understand and have that sounding board to bring something to someone you trust and be like, all right, listen, I worked really hard on this. I need your honest thoughts. I've asked people hundreds of times, like, what did you not like about that episode? Like, no, it's great. No, don't fuck what, because I know
Right.
what I didn't like, but I'm just trying to see if you're going to be honest with me and can give me a fair assessment of what I'm
Right.
doing.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah. I've like I said, I've been lucky enough to have a good kind of roster of other musicians and engineers that I can shoot, demos of songs that I'm working on at the time being, over to. And um, there's a lot of other people that get involved when it comes to putting out something for Death by Fireworks, which is funny because it's now primarily just a project, kind of run by me, and then all the people that I kind of collect around whatever I'm working on. So
now, not knowing you as a person and just meeting you, 15 minutes ago and chatting, listening to your songs and listening to every single song, which I have, I struggle with this question because I don't also want to bring down, see the wizard behind the curtain,
mm.
but are with your lyrics and your song content, is it introspective, or is it, speaking from your life? Are you taking things from your life and putting them into the songs?
For the most part, yeah. For the most part, it's easier for me um, to create and to write songs based off of personal experience. I wish, there are times that I wish I had more of that, like, um, that storyteller kind of instinct when it comes to songwriting. Like I sometimes I wish I had more of that, Ben, where I can take like a story out of a book I'm reading, or
Mm-hmm.
if I just like think of like an interesting scenario to be in, like writing a song around that. But
Well, I'll
when
tell
I've
you
tried,
right now, and not to cut you off, but you are a storyteller. Two of my favorite songs, um, off your first album are I can visualize what you're saying. And to me, when I can create a music video to a song in my head, That's great storytelling. So
Uh,
I don't sell yourself short, because I can honestly tell you there's two songs that I literally had the music videos playing in my head.
oh, that's awesome. If you don't mind my asking, which ones were they?
The Healing and Heaven is a Darker Place.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, those are, it's funny, talking about, writing songs from personal experience versus like telling stories. The that song Heaven Becomes a Darker Place was entirely, that's actually one of the few exceptions as far as it goes to songs about like real experience versus like creating something. That's one of the few that was more of a story that I thought I could turn into a song. So I
Well,
appreciate you saying that.
well,
That's awesome.
you did. So congratulations on that. So, you know, when it comes to music, and there's always a pivotal moment, usually as a child for me, I always go back. People are probably tired of hearing me say it, but I like to explain it to the artist. I was 6 years old. I heard the Beach Boys when I was on a long car ride with my family. And from that moment on, I knew that music was going to be a part of my life.
Mm.
Uh, do you remember as a child, did you grow up in a musical household? Was there always music playing? Or do you remember that moment when you kind of got that switch? You heard something different, for the first time? Like, I grew up with music all the time, but when I heard, Mike Love and Brian Wilson's harmonies, that
Mm.
changed my way of whatever I thought I was on in the background prior to that.
Mm. Well, I was definitely raised in a musical household. My dad was part of the worship team for the church that we were going to when I was a little kid. He played guitar and he sang on the worship team and everything like that. And yeah, music was playing all the time in our house. My dad's a big kind of 80s, late 70s rock guy. Journey was playing all the time when I was a kid. Journey, Leonard Skinner, Foreigner, um, Y&T, gosh, and then with my mom, she was a huge Elton John fan. I remember listening to a lot of Elton John when I was younger. But as far as like the first moment that I knew I wanted to make music, it was really when I was in my first band in middle school. Like just picking up the first guitar that I ever bought and working on music with other people. That's what made me want to get into music, was that collaborative, like the creative aspect of it, like being able to create something pretty much out of nothing. There's a weird kind of magic in creating music, because you're um, creating something almost entirely out of nothing, just from instinct and taste and everything like that. And so yeah, just being able to get into that creative aspect when I was in middle school and high school, I've just been working on that ever since.
When you're in middle school and you're starting to get into a band, I
Mm,
mean, what were your influences at that time? What was it, I mean, I always go back because it was a term when I was growing up, top 40. Was it,
mm.
what was popular at that time, or did you have your own niche little area of music that you gravitated towards?
Definitely started with a lot of 2000s pop punk. um, Green Day, Blink-182, Sum 41. And then, of course, because I was raised in the church, all of like the Christian like versions of those bands.
Hmm.
We were listening to a lot of those. But I remember the older brother of one of our bandmates burned a bunch of CDs for us. And there was some Death Cab for Cutie in there. Death Cab for Cutie is my favorite band of all time. But there was some Death Cab for Cutie in there. There was a lot of post rock records, like albums from Sigaros and Explosion in the Sky and This Will Destroy You. A lot of, yeah, like early to mid 2000s, like indie rock. The Shins, Who else? Gosh, Silver Sun pickups. If it was played on the Friday Night Lights soundtrack or the Grey's Anatomy
Yeah.
soundtrack, we were honestly listening to it. A lot of that early to mid 2000s indie stuff was what we were taking in around that time.
Yeah, and I look back at that too, like how you say, the Friday Night Lights and Grey's Anatomy, and I think it's so weird, but it makes total sense because I think everyone at that time was my age. I'm an older gentleman, but it's like those were the awesome music that was out there at the time, and the fact that it was getting to a wider audience. Like if an Explosion in the Sky came out in, let's say, 1991, no one would ever know who they were. Because they would do something so drastically different. I mean, and there were so many bands that came before them that I loved. There was a band called Ghost Vodka that was, to me, was like that's who Explosions in the Sky wanted to be, and all that other stuff. But it was like, oh my God, that song was on Grey's Anatomy the other night. And you're like, how the fuck? Sometimes you're in your own pocket. You're like, how do they know about that? But of course, the person who's putting the music together is my age and is listening to awesome music at the same time. So it makes sense.
Exactly.
Now, was Death Cab like that first band that you completely grabbed a hold of and said, this belongs to me? Or was 100%. There another? Yeah.
It 100% was. I remember listening to their record Transatlanticism. Must have been a freshman in high school at that point. God, it was like a meteor crashed into my atmosphere. It changed everything. It changed what I knew music could be. And it was from that moment on, like going, just kind of excavating the history of that band and who they were listening to and how they got to the point that they were at. And that was the first band that I obsessed over, like listening to nothing but their records for weeks. And I'm still listening to them. I'm still listening to them to this day.
Yeah. Having those moments where music, you never thought music could be a certain way, is those eye-opening moments are, I mean, I know where I was as the time machine that I always say music is. I know exactly where I was, who I was with, what it smelled like, if it was raining or it was sunny. Like I remember when I heard different music for the first time, that it was always a treat because I was like, wow, I never know you could do this with music. And I mean, for me, I had a couple moments. I was in high school when Sunny Day Real Estate's Diary came out. And I remember buying it at like a Sam Goody because I liked the cover. I didn't know who it was, but I bought it, put it in my CD player on the way home. And I was like, holy shit. And then it just opened my eyes to all other music. And then I heard like Minerals, Power of Failing, and Elliot's US songs. And like, I was like, I never knew music could be, I knew it could be diverse because I grew up in the 80s and 90s and I got everything from pop to new wave to punk to emo to grunge to metal. Like I got to see the explosion of it all, but there were always these little bands that did something a tiny bit different and always, as I say, opened my ears to this new sound that I was like, what the fuck is going on? How did they figure this out? How did they make something so completely different than the stuff that was out there before? And it just blows your mind, man.
I know, it's just a testament to the power of music in itself. But I think more specifically, like just the power of like creativity to begin with, like testing the limits of things. That's where you get really interesting, really incredible stuff.
Well, I think that's also where we are in today's world. I think back then, it was very hard to try something different and put it out there and see how it matriculates. Like a band for me, like Mineral, was 2 albums done. It's over with. And it's because it like never had that time. It couldn't reach bigger audiences. And now they're like revered in the emo world of creating something so different. But, especially in today's day and age, you can, throw shit against the wall, see if it sticks and know immediately,
Yep, exactly. The response time is so quick these days, because we have the ability, like, just at the drop of a hat, we can check statistics on how songs of ours are doing, like whether or not it's getting like good play, if it's getting the attention that we want it to get, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Now, when you were growing up, and it's probably a church thing, but do you remember your very first concert you ever saw? Now, it could be two different ones, because I always like the very first one you ever saw and the very first one you got to choose to go to.
Yeah. So it's funny you said it like that, because I was going to answer it exactly that way. So the first concert I remember going to, off the top of my head, I think there was this, it was like a Christian Warp Tour that they did for a decent amount of time, like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. It was called Spirit West Coast, and I'm in the like San Francisco Bay Area, and so we drove down. They held it at this big racetrack in Monterey, Laguna Seca. And they put up festival side stages with merch vendors and food and all that kind of stuff. And my family, we took an RV with me, my folks, my sister, and then a couple of my bandmates and we went down there. And that's the first concert I remember going to, or the first like live music I experienced. The first concert I remember choosing to go to, like without my folks. I think I was like 11 years old, and we went to see Panic at the Disco at the Warfield in San Francisco. And what was cool about that show was Fun, the band Fun, was their opener, and it was before like they blew up, like before We Are Young and Some Nights, like before that record came out. They were
Nate Russo. I saw him in the format when he was
wow,
emo band. Yeah,
nice. Okay. Oh man, yeah, that was a cool show to see, like, especially looking back with how Fun, how they blew up, and I think even more especially with Jack Antonoff's meteoric kind of rise as a producer and an engineer, but also with his band. That was definitely a big moment too, because I've been a big fan of his music for a really long time too.
Yeah, he's awesome. I don't know if you know who Rick Moranis is, but I always call him Rick Moranis. Like when I forget his name, like, he looks like Rick Moranis.
I know exactly what you mean. Oh my God.
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah, I'm like, when I was watching the Taylor Swift folklore like sessions on Disney or whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I admitted it. Yeah, I watched all of it, but some of the faces he made, I was like, holy shit, he looks exactly like Rick Moranis.
I could picture him saying, "Hi, I'm the keymaster. Are you the gatekeeper?"
Yeah, yeah. So funny. How about your first time you ever performed in front of strangers? And I don't want to go to, church, because you have a congregation that knows you, but like the first time you performed in front of strangers, do you remember when that was, and how did it go?
I do. Yeah, it was that first band in high school. We were there. There used to be this great venue in there's a town here in the Bay Area called Walnut Creek, and there used to be this awesome venue there called Red House. And Red House was like a, I don't know, maybe like 150 cap room, like a miniature, like a tiny ballroom, like a ballroom shrunk down to like a third of the size of what it should be.
Yeah.
But it used to be this great venue where they had, they had hardcore shows. They had, rappers would perform there. The roster of bands and artists that would perform there was all over the place. You're getting, like indie rock band kids, and like I said, hardcore shows and straight like thrash metal and all kinds of stuff was being played there. And it was also an all ages venue. It was one of the few all ages venues here in the Bay. So that was another benefit to that. And that was the first big show that we ever had. And it was great. It's incredible with, the work ethic of high schoolers. It's incredible that we did as well as we did at that show. But we were so excited for it. There was no way that we weren't gonna, you know, work our asses off to try to do a good job on this one show. So it was great. Our drummer our drummer in that band met his wife through that show. So it was good for everybody all around.
Nice. Now, how about, do you have a performance memory that for good or bad will always stand out?
Yeah, yeah. I remember there was a festival. It was the first festival that Death by Fireworks ever played. There's a radio station based in San Francisco, Live 105, or Alt 105.3. I forget the name of it, but they were showing a lot of love to the title track off of All the Lights of the New Year. They were playing that song on rotation. They have like a local music segment on Sunday nights, and they were playing that a lot. And I had reached out to the DJ that ran that segment on Sunday nights, just saying, that I appreciated, all the love that they were showing for that song. And in that, chain of emails of us talking, they asked if we wanted to hop onto this bill for this music festival. And it was held at there's this great amphitheater. Calling it an amphitheater seems kind of conservative. It's really it's like Red Rocks. Like if you can picture the size of Red Rocks, like that stage, and there's like a big lawn up top and everything like that. It's called the Shoreline. Either way, they hosted this music festival there every year, and then they'd have a local band stage, aside from like these touring acts that they're bringing on, doing the festival circuit. And we opened that. We opened on the local band stage for that festival, and we had a great time playing. We did a great job. Me and my bandmates at the time, we knocked it out of the park. But like the bands that were headlining it, it was Franz Ferdinand, and it was Phoenix, and Taking Back Sunday, and gosh, who else? Cold War Kids. There were like big bands, bands that we were listening to, that they were putting out stuff around that time. And we were just completely starstruck, being able to like even just play in the vicinity of these people was incredible. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Now, at that moment when how you're explaining it, did any doubt creep into your head, especially when you say you're starstruck, right? But you just played at the same place they played, getting to watch them afterwards. Was there, because sometimes doubt will creep in, especially when you see and I'm throwing up air quotes right now, but like a professional band do what they do that have been around for a long time. Did any doubt creep into your head at that moment, or was it just an honor to be nominated?
It was just an honor to be in the same space as them. I mean, absolutely. Like the morning of, I think the day of any big show, there is that thought in my head of oh gosh, oh man, like I'm going through with this,
Yeah.
and but I completely owe our success with big shows like that to the people that help us out, and the other bands that we play with. If we're putting bills together, or if we're asked to hop on a bill, it's just an honor to be able to play music in front of people. And I think especially now more than ever, with the pandemic having passed us, there was that time where people weren't going to concerts because no venues were hosting any shows. And just being able to play, just being asked to play, or just playing in front of people, period, is honor enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and at that time too, I mean, you go back to, I call it's the new C word, which is COVID. But at that time too, especially when things started to come back, as an avid showgoer, it was extremely. I felt bad because I know every band wanted to get out there, but every band was scared. And then
Mhm.
there's so many venues went out of business during that time. I mean,
Yep.
I was donating to my local venue in the hopes that they wouldn't close, and they didn't. I was very happy about that. But it was, of course, when it came back, it was like there was this mad dash for the ones that were like, okay, I got to go play,
Yep.
and then there weren't spots for other people, and then you go to the show and there's only 18 people there because people are still scared to go out. And I was like, man,
Yep.
it was such a crazy environment and time to think about, the arts and everything else that came with it. But I'm really into all different types of art. And at that moment, I mean, I was paralyzed because a big part of my life was gone, and it was music.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it definitely knocked the wind out of me when all the lockdowns went into effect. But thankfully at that time, it just turned into, redirecting energy. I think it's safe to say a lot of musicians, once the pandemic hit, they went into, their cabins, or they, in isolation wherever they were in the world, and kept, you know knocking away at it, kept writing and trying to create, in lieu of performing in front of people. Musicians just took to their craft, and that's definitely what I did. That's definitely what I did.
Now, when we're talking about the experiences of being on certain bills, but was there one place where you shared a stage, like the band went on either before you or right after you, that you got to stand back and just watch in awe and just enjoy yourself? Because I know a lot of times it shows, especially when you're performing, you don't get a lot of time to enjoy yourself. But was
Mhm.
there a band that either opened for you or played after you that you were just like, wow, I'm having so much fun, this is amazing?
Yeah, there was a bill that Death by Fireworks played on. I think it was 2017. We played. There's this great venue in San Francisco called Brick and Mortar Music Hall, and this band Emery. They were big
Yeah.
in the.
Yeah, no,
You're
Emery.
familiar with Emery?
Yeah.
Okay, so we opened for them.
Christian screamcore.
Hell yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were going on tour, and whatever, I forget exactly what the deal was, but they were booking local bands for opening slots on their tour, and so Death by Fireworks, and then there's this other great band here in the Bay Area called Like Roses. The two of us opened for the touring bill, and it thankfully one of the bands that was on tour with Emery was this band called Hearts Like Lions, and we were tight with the guys in that band. We had played with them previously, so we were able to, I guess, get a good word in with them, maybe. So that helped us kind of book in that spot on that show. Um, but that's definitely the show that, after all of the after all of the anxiety of, getting stuff together and getting practiced and making sure that we're ready to go on, and ironing out the kinks, after that set, realizing like holy shit, like there's 300 people in this room that came to see this headlining band, and they're seeing us play,
Yeah.
right before them. And yeah, after that set, our gear was packed into the green room, and me and the bandmates, got a couple drinks in. When that was definitely a moment after finishing that set, there was a moment we're all kind of huddled up together, and we're like, holy shit, we got to do this. This is
Yeah.
awesome. one
That's
of the
awesome.
one of the moments where you especially get to be grateful that this is something that we get to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. My favorite Emery story I'll share with you. I saw Emery in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a pre-show for Furnace Fest in 2021.
Mm.
And so place is packed, and there's, you know, a handicapable section, guy in a wheelchair. Emery comes on, he's going nuts. He's enjoying
Yeah.
himself so much. And a bunch of guys just in the crowd like turned around, and because the guy's screaming the lyrics at the top of his lungs, and they go, "You want let's get you up front, let's get you up front," and they just
that's
pick
cool.
him up over the banister. They actually crowd surfed him all the way to the stage, and the guys in Emory picked him up, put him on stage, and let him sit there for the entire show. It was such a beautiful, awesome moment. I was like, that was fucking amazing. And like,
that's so sick.
For everyone to be so cool about it, and the guys in Emory just being like, yeah, no, fucking stay, because he like was trying to figure out how to get off the stage. Like, no, stay there. I was like, that's awesome.
That's so sick. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about your music, there's a moment where you're going to only have a couple minutes, but you have to show an individual your music. I've explained it to people where you're sitting down in front of the world's largest record producer at the moment, and you can only impress them with one of your songs. Like, you can only capture what you do, and that, let's go with the average song is 3.5 minutes. You have 3.5 minutes. What song of Death by Fireworks are you playing for them?
There's an EP that I put out in 2022. It's called 333. Yep. I would play the first song off of that. It's called Nothing Left to Say.
I wanna know what happened to you. That night you drove out on your own. I'm not trying to push you into corners. I'm not trying to hurt you, I just want to know you're home. And if you're ever feeling lonely, I hope you know I'm just a phone call away. Right all the ways you've ever known me. Just saying things so you've got nothing left to say. I want to bridge the gap between us. I want to cross that distance from your door. You're out of bed, wake up wondering why. I'm on my knees, you're on the hotel bathroom floor. And if you're ever feeling lonely, I hope you know I'm just a phone call away. Right all the ways you've ever known me. Just saying things so you've got nothing left to say. I've got something to say. And if you're ever feeling lonely, I hope you know I'm just a phone call away. Right all the ways you've ever known me. Just saying things 'cause I've got nothing left to say.
I think there's an energy in that song that is undeniable. I wanted to really make something that would push myself vocally on that song, and also I wanted to kind of get back to my kind of pop punk ish roots, and the song evolved into something else beyond just like, you know, pop punk. But I think it showcases really what I love most about making music is being able to make something powerful. And I think it's, you know, with how concise it is, it's like that perfect thing to showcase, like, this is what I do. It has a little piece of everything that I love, like all the music that I enjoy, whether it's rock or or electronic music or hip hop or something. It has pieces of everything in it. So I would choose that. That would be the one that I would put into that all knowing record producer's hand.
Yeah. Is that your favorite song you've ever released? Because it could be very different than, what you would play for someone.
It's definitely one of them. It's definitely one of them. My favorite that I've put out, I think that's probably oh gosh. I think my favorite song I've released would be the third song on the 333 EP. It's a song called "I Love You Still, I Always Will." That's probably my favorite.
That's my second favorite song. It's written down right
Okay,
here in front of me. Yeah, it's my second
favorite. That's probably my favorite that I've put out, just because I'm really especially proud of the lyrics on that one. But to try to, as far as attention grabbing, I think Nothing Left to Say does a better job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'd be one of those two. It'd be one of those two. But man, I don't know. There's I put out an album in 2021, Drive Safe Stay Alive, and
my favorite song is off of that.
Yeah. Oh, which one is it?
Take a guess.
I'll
give you one guess and then I'll tell you.
Okay. Silly Wishes.
Nope.
All right. What is it?
Down in the Valley.
Oh, dude, you're a real one, Shane. Oh my God.
and
that's my favorite one off there, man.
Yeah. So, and the reason why it's my favorite song off of it, because for me, like if I was sitting in front of someone, and I know it's a longer track, but if I was sitting down in front of someone and said, okay, I'm going to explain to you who Death by Fireworks is by one song, that's the song I'm picking. Down in the Valley.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
I think it encompasses everything about what you're about, because you get the slow, subtle sultriness of the song, and then you get later on in the song where you grew up in is that pop punk emo-ish indie phase, but it's all there in one song to enjoy. So it's one of those songs that I think it's a song created for that anyone can listen to. Your mother, your sister, your father, your grandmother, your cousins, your friends. Like, it's a song that I think everyone can listen to.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's funny. That's probably my favorite off that record too. Every time I share that album with people, it's fun. I'm trying to, trying to catch people's attention as quickly as I can. We were talking about, the culture that we live in with putting out stuff as quickly as possible. And oftentimes that leads people to, putting out, smaller and smaller pieces of art, just because kind of collectively our attention spans are getting kind of smaller.
Yeah.
Just because we're getting inundated with new stuff all the time. So we got to create that eye catching or ear catching thing that's, nice and short and sweet. And
that's Silly Wishes.
And that's yeah, exactly. That's Silly Wishes. That's Nothing Left to Say. It's more immediate and more kind of I guess focused. It's a little more of a punch. It has more of a punch to it.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
like Down in the Valley, when I was writing that song, like I knew like it's got to take its time. There's a lot more here than just like verse, chorus, whatever. There's more to it, and it needs that longer runtime, and so that's and I'm sticking to it no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the payoff is beautiful, and that's where I can tell, and how I said, like, I read into things and I dissect. That's just my nature. And when you get to the end of the album and that's the last song, I've always tried to explain people and helping other people put songs together and putting albums together. I've always said you need to have not the throwaway. You can't, because I go back to like my favorite Guns N' Roses song is Rocket Queen, and it's the last song on the album, and it's a song they were going to throw away, but they just felt strongly that they had to put it on there, and it's my favorite song on the album, and that's where I go with, because when you have a song that's so fucking good and the payoff is amazing and it's the last song, all you want is more.
Right.
You know, so if you throw a song in there, I'm like, I like this song, but I don't know how much I love it, but yeah, let's throw it on, put it as the last song. I always say that's a detriment, because you want people to want to come back for more. And if you end it incorrectly, like your track structure has to be, when putting together an album, sometimes I don't think people pay enough attention to it. You know, your first song has to grab them, your fifth song has to keep them there, and the last song has to make them want more.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I when I was putting Drive Safe Stay Alive together, there was a fair bit of discussion in the studio, you know, working with the engineer. I was working with this amazing engineer. His name is Nick Luicono. He works out of a studio in San Mateo here in the Bay Area. And we are working over kind of the run of the album and the track list and everything. And the whole idea for that record was I wanted to feel more like, you know, you're entering into kind of there's this world, there's this overarching thing, like if there's a story or just an overall tone of the album. But I wanted it to feel like a whole cohesive thing, and not like a concept album, but you know, there's a world that you're entering into in this album versus just being a collection of songs. And there was no way I was going to end the record with any other song than Down in the Valley.
Well, thank you for doing that, because all it did was leave me wanting more.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Before you said Death Cab for Cutie was your favorite band, and I usually like to go to, because it can be different when I structure it the way I'm going to say it, is are they the band that never lets you down? Like when you don't know what you want to listen to, or you don't know what you're looking for to listen to, that's the band that you constantly just turn on? Because my favorite band and the band that never lets me down that I always turn to are completely different.
That's a cool way to put it. I've never thought of it that way, but Death Cab is not the band that doesn't let me down. I think the band that doesn't let me down is I think it's Fleet Foxes. Yeah, I think Fleet Foxes is the band that I turn to when I don't know what else to listen to, because I've never been let down by them. There might be songs of theirs that I enjoy less than others, but overall, every album that they've put out, I've been a fan of. Ever since, you know, hearing White Winter Hymnal like on MySpace in like 2008, I've been a fan of theirs, or whenever that record came out. Yeah, I think it's interesting you put it that way. I've never thought of like favorite bands that way. That's cool. But yeah, I think I'd say Fleet Foxes is that band for me.
Nice. Yeah, no, I always think like I have my favorite bands, but I know the band that I always put on when I don't know what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like I have my favorite bands and I'll always listen to them, but at the same time, I know there's a band that when I'm like, fuck, I don't know what. While I'm scrolling, this is who I'm going to listen to. Like that's what I do.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I think I try to be as intentional with consuming music as possible. Just because I know how much it can suck being like a working musician and trying to make money off of art. And so with that being said, I think, you know, that's why websites like Bandcamp are such a blessing, because it's really just the artist and then the person who's consuming the art. And so, you know, I don't know if it's more ethical is like too dramatic of a way to explain it, but it just feels like there's more of a connection between, you know, the fan the art and the artists themselves through websites like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big proponent of, and I mean, I know they recently sold and laid off a bunch of people, which pisses me off because
Oh, damn.
unfortunately, when you have something like that, and other people see how big, of course, you're not going to not sell it when you're being offered all this money. Your dreams come true after your creation, but like Bandcamp is my source. Like that's my go-to when I start doom scrolling because of all the subgenre lists, and I get what was just uploaded, and
Right.
then I feel a connection to the artist, and then I want to say 80% of my music purchases come through Bandcamp.
Oh wow. Yeah. Nice. I didn't know, but them being sold, that's too bad.
Yeah, and they laid off a bunch of people right away because of course it's now a corporation, and whatever.
Right.
But fuck it, it is what it is. You're never going to stop capitalism. So. How about with all these bands that we've mentioned? I think they all kind of fall into a certain kind of category, let's say.
Yeah.
But is there, an artist or a musician that you get tons of enjoyment out of that are the complete opposite of the type of music we've been talking about today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I understand that this might be like it's kind of tough with the world, with the music consuming landscape that we're in, but that artist would definitely be Kanye West. I remember hearing Graduation and 808s and Heartbreak, early on when I was just starting to make music, and I that ever since then, obviously he's put out some duds, but nevertheless, there have been some moments in his musical career that have been complete watershed moments for me. And just seeing how his music has evolved over the years has been incredible. It's been very influential in subtle ways. It's funny. There's a song that I put out a handful of years ago called "After Nashville," and it's a total it's acoustic driven. It's like it's a 6-minute folk song that at the end turns into like heavy guitars and loud drums and all good things. But from when I was writing that song, I was listening to Kanye West, as well as Bon Iver and Sufjan Stevens and other artists like that. But yeah, he would definitely be one of the artists that I've taken a lot of influence from, where it might not be as visible as other bands.
And I'm glad you didn't shy away from saying it, especially with how divisive, an individual can be. I always, I've tried to explain to people, I'm like, listen, it's not going to take away from the art that you fell in love with, right? I put it to last year, I think Michael Jackson was still the 4th best-selling artist last year, and so people, you're still allowed to listen to their music. You can't shut them out completely. And if you loved it, you loved it. And just because of what some asshole says or does at times, can't kind of run away from it. So I appreciate you sticking to your guns and throwing it out there.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Well, nothing is going to change the fact that, if someone, I mean, there's always the possibility that someone who created something cool turns out to be a dick. You know what I mean? There's always that possibility.
And a lot of times, like, once they get a little too big, there's 1,000% chance they're going to become a dick.
Yeah, I mean, God, like you had brought up Michael Jackson. Like think of like a guy like Phil Spector, incredible producer, incredible arranger, but also like a convicted murderer. There's a possibility that like complete like pieces of garbage can create good art, and that is a weird line to kind of cross, like separating the artist from the art. And we talk a lot about that these days in the the internet age, with how divisive things can be. But at the end of the day, nothing is going to change the fact that Graduation and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus and The Life of Pablo. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, he's wrote a ton of bangers. Like
Exactly,
it's
exactly,
okay.
and it's okay, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't pulled "I Believe I Can Fly" out of Space Jam, by R. Kelly. So I mean, it is what it is.
Right. I mean, the man wrote remix to he wrote Ignition. Like, come on.
Yeah. All right. Last hard question for you is:
Okay.
There's 5 minutes left to live. A meteor's going to crash into the Earth, and you have to listen to one song. What song are you listening to?
Oh man. Man, I've got 5 minutes and I'm listening to one song.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the world is ending, it's got to be some post rock, because it's just got to be something epic, or just something grand. Man, I think I would put on. There's a "This'll Destroy You" song called "The Mighty Rio Grande." It was in the soundtrack for Moneyball, that Brad Pitt movie about the Oakland A's. Yeah. I think I would put that song on, just because, like, if the world is coming to an end, I need to put on something epic to like fit the ending of everything. Need something or maybe like something by Godspeed You Black Emperor, or Sigur Rós.
All right.
I'm going to stick with the Mighty Rio Grande. I'm going to stick with that.
All right, nice. All right, do you own anything, any type of music memorabilia or music related item that just means the world to you that you think will never want to see go away?
Yeah. So me and my wife and a couple of friends of ours, we caught Death Cab for Cutie and the Postal Service on tour last year. They went on the 20th anniversary tour for the Postal Service record.
Yep.
And Death Cab's Transatlanticism. We saw them at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, here in the Bay Area. We saw them at the Greek Theater, and I snagged a poster from the merch booth there when we saw them. And I'm actually like looking at it past my computer right now. It's hanging on the wall here in me and my wife's living room, and I'm never letting that thing go. Too important of like a celebratory night of music. That's I'm never letting go of that thing.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. My favorite thing that I own is a poster as well, and it's just one of those things where it's like that may need to be buried with me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've been here for an hour now, and I don't want to keep you. I'm sure you got to eat dinner, and I'm going to have to go to bed. We're on different coasts right now. But before we move on to our final segment, which is where you appeared for the first time on our show, I'd love to give you the opportunity right now to let everybody know how to follow you, find everything that you're doing, and keep up with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could find my music on all streaming services as Death by Fireworks. And I'm active on Instagram and TikTok most. And it's the same name on there, Death by Fireworks. For Instagram and TikTok, it's no caps, no spaces, just Death by Fireworks.
Awesome. Well, we are now into our final segment, which is our weekly threes. It's 3 things that you're listening to that you'd like people to listen to as well. You give your 3, then I give my 3 for the week.
Okay. There's this band out of I think they're out of LA. They're called Spanish Love Songs.
Yeah, so I know you just said it and I don't want to cut you off, but they're the band that I try so hard to get so many different people into them because I think they're one of the greatest bands around today that,
Oh,
they're not as big as they should be. And it's one of those things. It's hard for me to convince people how good they are. And I don't understand why.
yeah. Oh, dude. It's funny. I I got turned on to them through a friend of mine who booked a show for them here in the Bay Area, and ever since they've had me in like a vice grip. Like my attention has been like gripped by them. Me and my wife are going to be. They're coming into town, I think, in a couple months, um, and yeah, they're. I mean, Schmaltz and Brave Faces Everyone and No Joy. God, all incredible records. I think it's safe to say they're one of the best rock bands out there right now. They're just incredible.
Without a doubt.
So yeah, their record, Schmaltz, me and my wife are listening to that a lot right now. We just saw Young the Giant in San Francisco last week. Their record Mind Over Matter has been playing a lot in the car recently. And then I would say Father John Misty, his album I Love You Honey Bear. That's another one that I've been listening to on repeat recently. I mean, I listen to songs off that record all the time, but yeah, I'll never stop recommending that album to people.
Nice. Great 3 for you this week. All right. My 3 for this week. My first one is a band called Sporting. They have an EP out called Season 2. They're an alt pop band out of Rhode Island. Really cool. Love to see different people put different spins on music, and that's one of them. The next is a band called The Glitch Youth, German emo band, and they have an EP called Sway Song. 3 killer tracks that are just phenomenal, and I love hearing music from bands across the world, especially singing in English and creating music that can be used for anyone. And last but not least is a indie band out of Barcelona. The name of the band is Minor Planets. They have an EP called Never Ending Days, and again, it's unique. It may be hard for some people to swallow the vocalist, but I think it brings so much sincerity and honesty to the music, trying to get past his Spanish accent, singing in American lyrics. I just think it's really cool how it came out. And it's one of those things that, again, for some people, all Spanish love, but it's once you can digest it, you're like, wow, that's fucking unique. I love that. So those are my 3 for this week.
Nice.
But Jake, truthfully and honestly, I want to say thank you for what you've done for me, and that's giving me your music and letting me enjoy it and letting me pick it apart and take ownership of it. It was a beautiful moment. There's nothing I long for more in my daily existence of finding new music that I can find and attach myself to and fall in love with. And I want to say thank you so much for doing that for me. And thank you for being the artist that you are and creating the awesome music that you do. And I just can't wait to hear more from you. So I'm very excited for the future, and I love what you've done, and I know I'm going to love what you're doing. So just thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Sam. That's really kind of you to say. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries, because it's the truth. And everybody, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Death by Fireworks, and have a great fucking time.
Don't you think it's funny in a way how every single motion Don't you think it's lovely out tonight? How every planetary body's perfectly aligned. Well, if you second guess yourself, take your pictures down off the shelf, 'cause you were never meant to live in line. Falling stars, the birthday cards, all your silly wishes unfulfilled, and the wolves outside, they thrash and bite, and they can smell the wine your glass is spilled, the wine your glass is spilled. Falling stars and birthday cards, all your silly wishes unfulfilled, and the cops outside, they flash their lights, and they tell us to dismantle what we've built.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.